Hi guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the Sennheiser HD-660S. Now these open back headphones can be found for around £430 in the UK or around $500 in the US. If you live in these territories or indeed elsewhere, the locally link in the description below will take you to your localized Amazon store. Now before jumping into the review, if you do have Instagram, I'd very much appreciate a follow. It's at TotallyDubbed. There'll also be a link in the description below. So let's get into the review. So first off, I want to cover what you get in the box. I know it's a little bit of a mess, and that's because the cable itself is 3 meters long. Now the one I use to my Audiophile 2 DAC is the 6.3mm unbalanced cable. There is a balanced 4.4mm pentagon cable included. Again, it's around 3 meters long. Now it's worth bearing in mind that the pentagon of 4.4mm connection truthfully is only going to be really applicable to Sennheiser's own DAC. So I know why they've done this, but quite frankly I would have liked a 6.3mm or 3.5mm balanced cable instead. But nevertheless, that's what they've included. In terms of the connectivity, in terms of the headphones, yes, they do have removable cables, as it might be pretty obvious, but they've got 2-pin connectors. Now there is also a rather large 6.3mm to 3.5mm adapter, which I find really large and quite frankly a little bit ridiculous, but nevertheless that is also included if you want it. So aside the cables, let's talk about the build quality and design. First off, the design, which is quite easy to cover. These are going to be used at home, but I do quite like the fact that you can pretty much see through and see the drivers themselves. I really like that design. It's got a mesh design, metallic design on the outside, so you're not going to be accidentally poking a hole in the drivers. And in terms of how they actually look like on the head, at least subjectively speaking, I think they look fantastic. They come in an all black design, or all black off greyish design, and again, nothing to be overly concerned about here. As far as I'm aware, they don't come in different colours. Now in terms of the build quality, as I mentioned, that they do feel quite sturdy, but I should mention that how this affects the overall comfort. Now the headphones themselves are around 260 grams, which is perfectly light. However, the clamp force of the headphones, in my opinion, is a little bit too stiff. I would have liked the clamp force to be a little bit weaker. Now why is that? Well, quite frankly, because when I was comparing them to the HiFiMan Sundara, I found the HD-660S to be a little bit too pushing on my head, and in this respect meant it to be a little bit uncomfortable for longer periods of listening. Now don't get me wrong, these headphones are comfortable. They've got nice cushiony pads at the top, and the actual pads themselves are comfortable, so that if you're like myself and you wear reading glasses at home, or even sunglasses if you want to be like that, then you can do so because the pads themselves are nice and soft. They're not memory foam as far as I'm aware, but they're soft enough in order to be comfortable for long periods of time and without having to worry about sweat. So really my main concern over here in terms of the build quality and design is mainly due to the clamping force. I wish they would have just tailored that down a little bit, purely because the headphones are going to be used primarily at home. I can't see them being used anywhere else, and as such I feel like a looser clamp would be a little bit more appealing for people who have either larger size head or medium size heads, which I would say myself sit in that category. And now we get on to the most important part of the review, the sound quality. Now the Sennheiser HD-660S was connected via my Audiophile 2 via the unbalanced 6.3mm jack. Now this gave me also a level playing field with my HiFiMan Sundara, which I would class at the same sort of category, and also my heavily custom modded Denon ADHD 2000s. Now let's get into the actual overall frequency breakdown. First off, let's talk about the sub bass. Now these headphones do extend in the sub bass tones. However, it doesn't sound as pronounced or give you that sort of rumble that a closed back headphone will give you. So in comparison to my Denons over here, they sound somewhat tame. Now in comparison to the HiFiMan Sundara, which is the headphones that I was somewhat comparing them to, I will say the HiFiMan Sundara have a slightly more warmer sound signature, and therefore the low end does come across a little bit more prominent. Now in terms of the mid bass, I was slightly disappointed by the HD-660S because it didn't sound too controlled. It sounded a little bit wobbly and a little bit off-piste, let's put it that way. Now, in comparison to closed back, it didn't really have a standard chance in comparison to my Denon headphones, and in comparison to the HiFiMan Sundara, here the HiFiMan Sundara produced a lot better control and precision. Now don't get me wrong, it does have a good sort of slam, and I'm being a bit nitpicky over here, but it is just worth bearing in mind that its competitors, at least and specifically the HiFiMan Sundara, does sound a little bit more controlled in this frequency range. Now moving on to the mids, here the headphones do produce a good forward mid tone. Now it's not to be confused that if you were to spend more money, let's say on the HD 700 or the HD 800 or 820, then you're going to get far better mid-range clarity. But at this price tag, I will say that it is one of the better mid-centric headphones. Now, in comparison to my closed-back Denons, it was far superior in this domain. In comparison to HiFiMan Sundara, the HiFiMan Sundara has somewhat of a V-shaped / warmer, relaxed sort of signature. So here, the HD660S actually came across better for vocals. So when I was listening to either podcasts or let's say YouTube videos, or even listening to female vocals, here it came across a lot better with the HD660S. Now moving on to the highs, the HD660S does provide a very nice extension at the high end. Now in comparison to the other headphones that I've mentioned, these headphones did the best. Not only did they provide a very good extension, but they also provided a non-sibilant type of sound, which the HiFiMan Sundara, on the other hand, does sound slightly sibilant in certain scenarios, so specifically when you're cranking up the volume. So it was really nice to hear this kind of fluid but yet very precise extension at the top end. Now moving on to Soundstage, and here is the thing which I was genuinely blown away by with the HD660S, even from first listen, without even any burn-in. Now these headphones have got some incredible soundstage positioning, so much so I would compare it and in fact benchmark it against the HD 800, so one of the more class-leading headphones that Sennheiser offers, and one of the most reference headphones in the audiophile community. Here the positional cues, the instrument separation, the width, the depth, just the overall imaging that these headphones had is absolutely incredible. Now, in comparison to the other headphones that I've mentioned, again, like the HiFiMan Sundara, don't get me wrong, those are fantastic in their own right. But these headphones took it to another level. And at this price range, I wasn't expecting to get such immense, fantastic soundstage reproduction. Again, the biggest thing for me was the overall width and depth and how the positional cues came throughout the different locations on the headphones. So for example, you're listening to games and you're playing some games and you see some shooting from the distance. That positional cue was just perfection. What I'm trying to say over here is that the soundstage is by far one of its best traits, and whilst the other sound frequencies are good, the soundstage is what really makes it truly unique. And at this price range, I would struggle to find another set of headphones which would compete in this domain with the HD660S. So what is my verdict on the Sennheiser HD660S? Well, quite frankly, I really love the soundstage and I really love the overall sound frequency. Now I do listen to quite a lot of R&B and dance music, and I would have liked a little bit more control and precision in the low end, so specifically in the mid-bass tones. Now don't get me wrong, it doesn't do a bad job. So in comparison to, for example, the HiFiMan Sundara, or let's say my custom modded Denon D2000s, then it doesn't compete. And here is where I felt a little bit left out. The biggest thing for me, and of course it's going to be subjective, was the overall comfort. That clamp force was just a little bit too much. Now I know you're not supposed to sit for a prolonged amount of time, but when I was gaming for over 2 hours, I felt a little bit uncomfortable, and so much so, it somewhat gave me a bit of a headache. So I had to refer back to the HiFiMan Sundara to kind of enjoy my gaming experience. So in this respect, they are fantastic. They've got a great sound signature, they've got a good overall soundstage, which is by far the best in its category, and overall they've got everything which kind of ticks the box. But for me, at least subjectively speaking, the comfort was somewhat of a letdown. But that is my opinion. Let me know in the comments below what you make of it. If it was me, if I had to suggest a headphone, I would go for the HiFiMan Sundara. It might not be as eloquent in the soundstage or in the mid-range department, but on the whole does produce a fantastic overall sound and pretty much costs somewhat the same price. Of course, if you do like this video, do give it a like, subscribe to see more, and favourite and share if you feel that this video will be helpful to your family and friends. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you follow me on Instagram, if you do have that platform, then that would be greatly appreciated. Alright guys, I've been Totally Dubbed, take care and bye bye.